Remember when bread actually tasted like bread? Most of us grew up with a loaf on the counter that our parents trusted. The same brand, week after week, year after year. But something changed. Quietly. Gradually. The bread got softer, sweeter, and stranger. The ingredient lists got longer, and somehow a food that sustained humanity for thousands of years, flour, water, salt, and yeast, became one of the most highly engineered products in the modern supermarket. This isn't about danger, it's about design, and today we're counting down 8 UK bread brands that represent the worst of that industrial shift, and exactly where to spend your money instead. Let's get into it. Few brands are as deeply embedded in British kitchens as Warburton's, and their toasty loaf does exactly what it promises. Perfect toast every time, even browning, identical slices, no surprises, and that's the giveaway. Real bread varies, fermentation is alive, dough behaves differently every day. But Warburton's toasty is built for total consistency, using emulsifiers, vegetable oils, enzymes, and tightly controlled processing. None of these ingredients are illegal or unsafe, but they exist for one reason: predictability. This loaf isn't designed to taste exceptional, it's designed to perform in factories, warehouses, lorries and cupboards. And the result is bread that functions well, but offers little flavour or character. One reviewer said it perfectly: it tastes like sweetened cardboard. And they're right. Because when you strip bread of everything that makes it real, what's left is just a vehicle for butter and jam, an edible sponge. At number 7, we have another household name trying to reinvent itself for the health-conscious crowd. Hovis Seed Sensations, the loaf covered in seeds, marketed as wholesome, natural, nutritious. But here's what they don't want you to notice: those seeds are just a distraction. Strip away the seed coating and what you've got underneath is the same ultra-processed base as every other industrial loaf. Refined flour, preservatives, emulsifiers, rapeseed oil. They've taken cheap, low-quality bread and rolled it in seeds like breadcrumbs on a chicken nugget, hoping you won't look any deeper. And it works. People see seeds and think healthy. They see the word sensations and think premium. But flip the pack over and you'll see the truth. High salt, barely any fibre, and a list of additional elements that would make a Victorian baker weep. One customer left a review saying their loaf had mould on it after just 2 days. 2 days. And others have complained it tastes dry and lifeless even when fresh. That's because the seeds can't hide what's underneath. Poor quality bread that was never meant to nourish you. Coming in at number 6, we have Kingsmill again. But this time it's their Great White Loaf. The one that's been a staple in British kitchens for decades. The one your mum probably bought. The one you've trusted without question. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Kingsmill Great White is a masterclass in processed mediocrity. It's soft, yes. It's consistent, yes. It lasts for days without going stale, but that's not because it's good bread. It's because it's been engineered to survive. This loaf is designed to sit in a warehouse, travel in a lorry, stay on a shelf, and then sit in your cupboard for a week without changing texture. Natural bread doesn't do that. Natural bread goes stale. It hardens. It develops character. The fact that Kingsmill Great White doesn't tells you everything you need to know. And let's talk about what's actually in it. Emulsifiers like E471 and E472E. Flour treatment agents like ascorbic acid, not the natural vitamin C, but a synthetic version used to speed up industrial baking. Palm oil to create that artificially smooth crumb. Ingredients to keep it soft far longer than nature intended. One person described it as spongy and tasteless. Another said, "I'd rather eat cardboard." These aren't exaggerations. This is what happens when you prioritize shelf life over substance. Now this one might surprise you. At number 5 we have Tesco Finest Sourdough. Yes, the one with finest in the name. The one that sits in the premium section. The one that costs more and promises artisan quality. But here's the scandal. It's not real sourdough. Tesco Finest Sourdough uses sourdough starter but also commercial yeast and faster production methods. Some loaves rely on flavouring ingredients to replicate sourness rather than long fermentation. This is fake sourdough. It's industrial bread wearing a sourdough costume. And Tesco knows exactly what they're doing. They know that sourdough is trendy. They know people will pay more for it. So they slap the word on the label and hope you won't notice the difference. One baker called it an insult to real sourdough. And they're absolutely right. It may be legal, but it's not the same thing as slow, bakery-made sourdough. Real sourdough has health benefits, including being easier to digest. Tesco Finest sourdough isn't just bad bread, it's deceptive bread. True sourdough takes time, and time is expensive. What you're paying for here is branding, not fermentation. At number 4, we're hitting the budget end of the market with Aldi Everyday Essentials White Medium. The loaf that costs less than £1, the one students buy, the one people grab without thinking because it's cheap and it's there. But here's what you're actually buying: the absolute bare minimum of what can legally be called bread. This loaf is the end game of industrial food production. Every possible corner has been cut, every ingredient has been cheapened, every shortcut has been taken. The result is something that looks like bread, slices like bread, and technically is bread. But it's bread in the same way that a frozen ready meal is cooking. The texture is weird. It's simultaneously spongy and dry. It sticks to the roof of your mouth. It has that strange sweetness that all ultra-processed white bread has. Not because there's honey or malt in it, but because the refined carbohydrates are so simple your saliva starts breaking them down the second they hit your tongue. And let's be honest about the ingredient list. It's everything we've talked about so far, but cheaper. Lower quality flour, more emulsifiers to compensate for that low quality, more things added because it needs to last even longer, more seed oils because they're the cheapest fat available. One person said, "I wouldn't even feed this to the ducks." And that's not snobbishness, that's common sense. Even the ducks deserve better. This is bread as a delivery system, not bread as food. If you're still with me and finding this valuable, drop a 4 in the comments below. It helps me know you're here and that this content matters to you. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider hitting that button. Your support keeps this channel going. Now let's get into the top 3. This is where it gets really bad. At number 3, we've reached a loaf that shouldn't exist. Asda Smart Price White. The cheapest of the cheap. The bottom of the barrel, the loaf that costs 36 pence. 36 pence. Think about that for a moment. Think about what it takes to make bread. Growing wheat, milling flour, mixing dough, baking it, slicing it, packaging it, transporting it, stocking it, selling it. And somehow, after all of that, after every person in that supply chain takes their cut, you can buy a loaf for 36 pence. How is that possible? What corners were cut? What compromises were made? What ingredients were chosen not because they make good bread, but because they make cheap bread? The answer is in your hands when you open the bag. The bread is impossibly light. It's so soft it compresses into nothing when you squeeze it. It has no substance, no weight, no character. It's like holding edible air. And the taste? There is no taste. It's completely neutral. It exists only to fill space between other ingredients. It's not food, it's filler. The reviews speak for themselves. Tastes like chemicals. Made my kids gag. Even the dog wouldn't eat it. These aren't exaggerations. This is what people actually experienced. And here's the darker side. Who buys this bread? Families struggling to make ends meet. People who have no choice but to buy the cheapest option. Parents trying to feed their children on impossibly tight budgets. And what are they getting? The lowest quality, most nutritionally bankrupt product that can legally be sold as bread. That's not right. That's not fair. That's not a consumer failure. That's a system failure. And that's why this loaf sits at number 3 on our list of shame. At number 2, we have Lidl's answer to budget bread, Rowan Hill White. And it's almost identical to the Asda offering, which tells you everything you need to know. These discount supermarkets are in a race to the bottom. Who can make bread cheaper? Who can cut more corners? Who can squeeze more profit from less product? The result is Rowan Hill White, a loaf so processed, so stripped of anything resembling nutrition, so packed with chemicals and conditioners that calling it bread feels generous. But here's what makes this one particularly insidious. The name. Rowan Hill. It sounds charming, doesn't it? It sounds like a small village bakery, like rolling countryside and traditional values, like your nan's kitchen. But Rowan Hill isn't a place, it's a brand name invented by Lidl's marketing department to make you feel warm and fuzzy about buying industrial bread. It's emotional manipulation wrapped in a plastic bag. And the bread itself, one reviewer said it perfectly, it's like eating damp cotton wool. The saddest part is that Lidl could make better bread. They choose not to, because this bread, as terrible as it is, sells, and as long as it sells, they have no incentive to change. This is branding doing the heavy lifting where the product doesn't. And here we are, the worst of the worst, the absolute bottom. Number 1 on our list of shame, Morrison's Savours White. This loaf represents everything wrong with modern British food. It's cheap, it's convenient, and it's utterly devoid of quality, nutrition, or care. I've read through hundreds of reviews of this bread, and the consistency of the complaints is staggering. People say it tastes of nothing, that it has a chemical aftertaste, that it goes mouldy within days, that it's so soft it disintegrates when you try to spread butter on it. One person said, "I bought this once and genuinely questioned whether I'd accidentally bought sandwich sponges instead of bread." Think about that. It was so far from real bread that they wondered if it was even food. This is the end point of industrial bread production. The final form of corporate food, a product engineered to cost as little as possible while technically still qualifying as bread under UK food law. And Morrison's, a supermarket that used to pride itself on quality, on fresh food counters, on traditional butchers and bakers in-store, is selling this. They've put their name on it. They're asking you to trust them. Right, we've torn apart the worst of the worst. Now let's talk about where your money should actually go. Local independent bakeries. This is always the best answer. Find a real bakery near you, one where they mix the dough that morning, where you can smell it baking, where the baker knows what sourdough actually means. Yes, it costs more, but you're paying for real food made by real people who care about their craft. If you have room in the freezer, then freezing it means you can toast it at a later date, and it is still delicious. Supermarket in-store bakeries. If you must shop at supermarkets, use their in-store bakeries. Waitrose, Sainsbury's and Tesco all have them. The bread isn't perfect, it's still made from industrial mixes, but it's leagues ahead of the packaged stuff. Premium ranges. If you're buying packaged bread, go for the premium ranges. Waitrose Duchy Organic, Tesco Finest, not the sourdough, M&S Select Farms. They're better. Not perfect, but better. Make your own. Honestly, this is the ultimate answer. Bread is easy. Flour, water, salt, yeast. Mix, knead, prove, bake. It takes time, but most of that time is just waiting. And once you've tasted real homemade bread, you'll never want to go back. There are also great bread making machines available, making it even easier to have your own fresh bread. The uncomfortable truth. Here's what the industry doesn't want you to realize. You've been conditioned to accept terrible bread. You've been trained to think bread should be soft, springy, and identical slice after slice. You've been taught that bread should last a week in the cupboard. You've been sold the idea that this is normal. But it's not normal, it's engineered, it's artificial. It's the result of decades of food science dedicated not to making better bread, but to making cheaper bread that lasts longer and maximizes profit. Real bread goes stale. Real bread has texture. Real bread has flavor. Real bread feeds you. The loaves we've talked about today don't do any of that. They're edible packaging for other ingredients. They're vehicles for butter, cheese, and sandwich fillings. They're not food, they're food-like products. And the worst part? The people who suffer most are the ones who can least afford to. Families on tight budgets who buy the cheapest loaf and genuinely believe they're feeding their children bread, when what they're actually getting is ultra-processed rubbish that does more harm than good. What you can do. You don't need to overhaul your entire life. Just make one better choice. Buy one better loaf. Try baking once. Support one local baker. Every small step matters. Every pound you spend is a vote. Every time you choose real bread over industrial bread, you're telling the supermarkets that quality matters, that ingredients matter, that we won't accept this race to the bottom anymore. And maybe, just maybe, if enough of us start demanding better, they'll finally be forced to deliver it. So there you have it, the 8 worst bread brands in the UK and exactly where you should be spending your money instead. Did we get it right? What's the worst supermarket bread you've ever had? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this helpful, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because the British public deserves real bread, not chemistry experiments wrapped in plastic. Thanks for watching.